The Phantom Airborne Brigade is a member-owned, all-volunteer, nonprofit, Florida-based organization that was first formed in 1980. The Phantom Airborne Brigade provides the opportunity for active duty, retired, and veteran paratroopers to continue jumping in a manner they were used to while serving on active duty. All members are military-trained, airborne qualified personnel of all ranks, and we welcome military-trained airborne personnel worldwide. We are a recognized charitable organization. All donations are tax-deductible and go to support the original intent of the Phantom Airborne Brigade and the betterment of the Airborne Brotherhood by allowing continued involvement with the airborne community before, during, and after service to their country. Why do we do water jumps? Well, landing on the ground can be challenging for older and disabled jumpers. The average age of Phantom Airborne Brigade jumpers is 58, with our oldest jumper being 90. Landing in the water allows older and even disabled jumpers to participate with a lower risk of injury. We have paraplegic jumpers participating in today's event. We also perform land jumps at Skydive City in Zephyr Hills, Florida, and Brooksville, Tampa Bay Regional Airport. During any parachute operation, and especially when jumping into water, safety is critical. Key personnel are responsible for ensuring safety during parachute operations. First is the Departure Airfield Control Officer, or DACO, whose responsibilities include conducting a head count of all jumpers, confirming the manifest jump order, recording the serial number of each main and reserve parachute issued to each jumper, and ensuring the jumpers board the aircraft in reverse exit order. Next is the Drop Zone Safety Officer, or DZSO. The DZSO is responsible for the safe operation of the drop zone. The DZSO monitors wind and weather conditions and air traffic to ensure it's safe to jump. Maximum winds allowed for jumpers is 12 knots or 14 miles per hour and 8 knots or 9 miles per hour for our disabled or special jumpers. Cloud ceiling must be a minimum of 500 feet above the jump altitude, which is 1,500 feet. The DZSO updates the jump master on the optimum jumper release point. The DZSO provides visual wind direction and landing aids for the jumpers. And lastly, the DZSO gives approval to jump and stops the jump if a safety condition exists. The jump master gives the sustained airborne training briefing to all the jumpers. The jump master performs an equipment inspection of the jumpers, assisted by safety personnel. The jump master controls the actions of the jumpers in the aircraft, also assisted by safety personnel. The jump master determines the optimum path of the aircraft to the drop zone and selects the jump release point. The jump master checks for air traffic prior to jumping. To ensure safety when jumping into water, jumper recovery boats are provided and manned by local volunteers. The Lake County Sheriff and Lake County Fire Rescue Departments also provide boats, and a Lake County Fire Rescue emergency vehicle is on shore. Volunteer recovery boats are identified by yellow flags. All jumpers have a main and a reserve parachute, a flotation vest, and a whistle. For water jumps, the uniform is shorts or long pants, a shirt, and shoes. Helmets are optional. For land jumps, the uniform is a military uniform, boots, and helmet. Many jumpers also wear optional video camcorders.
seconds! Stand in the door! Go number one! Extend your arm! Extend your arm! All right. Hold out!
Airborne training. Airborne training is conducted at Fort Benning, Georgia, and lasts 3 weeks. The first week is ground week, where basic techniques are taught, plus a rigorous physical fitness regimen. The second week is tower week, where advanced techniques are taught to include parachute drops from 250-foot towers. And lastly, jump week, where the students complete 5 qualifying jumps with 1 day and 1 night jump with equipment. Basic jump wings are awarded at graduation. There are 3 parachutist ratings. The first is the basic parachutist, who has completed 5 qualifying airborne school jumps. The next level is the senior parachutist, who has completed 30 jumps, 15 have been with combat equipment, 2 night jumps, 2 mass tactical jumps, graduated jumpmaster school, served in an airborne unit for at least 24 months. And the highest rating, the master parachutist, has completed 65 jumps, including 25 with combat equipment, 4 night jumps, 5 mass tactical jumps, graduated jumpmaster school, and served in an airborne unit for 36 months. Today's jump aircraft is a Douglas C-47 Skytrain named the Tico Bell. The C-47 is the military version of the DC-3 civilian airliner. The C-47 has a large cargo door, a strengthened floor, a shortened tail cone for glider towing shackles, and an astrodome in the cabin roof. 10,000 C-47s were produced during World War II. Her specifications are a crew of 4, which includes a pilot, co-pilot, navigator, and radio operator, a capacity of 28 personnel or 18 combat-equipped paratroopers, or 2.5 to 3 tons of cargo. Her length is 63 feet, a wingspan of 95 feet, a max takeoff weight of 31,000 pounds, and is powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney 14-cylinder air-cooled radial piston engines, each generating 1,200 horsepower. She has a maximum speed of 224 miles per hour at 10,000 feet. Her range is 1,600 miles and has a surface ceiling of 26,400 feet. The Tico Bell is very special to paratroopers living today because very early on the morning on D-Day, June 6, 1944, she, along with hundreds like her, crossed the English Channel into France and dropped paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division and released towed gliders filled with infantry soldiers behind German lines during the assault on Hitler's Fortress Europe. The Tico Bell is painted just as she was on D-Day. The black and white stripes on the wings and fuselage are called invasion stripes. Their purpose was to identify friendly aircraft so they would not be mistaken for enemy aircraft and shot at by friendly anti-aircraft fire. The Tico Bell is owned, berthed, and flown by the Valiant Air Command, located at the Space Coast Regional Airport in Titusville, Florida. Founded in 1977, the Valiant Air Command has a continually growing collection of over 50 historic warbirds, representing the beginnings of aviation to the present day. The Valiant Air Command is a non-profit educational organization dedicated to the preservation of, education about, and commemoration of warbirds from all eras and the men and women who flew, maintained, and fought in them. The Tico Bell went on to survive D-Day and achieved a distinguished record of combat in the liberation of Europe, including Normandy, southern France, Holland, Belgium, and Germany. After the war, she stayed in Europe and participated in the Berlin Airlift before passing to the Royal Norwegian Air Force and finally the Royal Danish Air Force. She came home to the Valiant Air Command in 1988 after serving as VIP transport for the Danish Air Force. The parachute was first conceived by Leonardo da Vinci in the 15th century. The earliest evidence of the first true parachute dates back to the Renaissance period. The oldest parachute design appears in an anonymous manuscript from 1470s Renaissance Italy, showing a free hanging man clutching a crossbar frame attached to a conical canopy. The modern parachute was invented in the late 18th century by a Frenchman, Louis Sébastien Lenormand. The first successful parachute jump didn't occur until 1797, when another Frenchman, André Jacques Garnerin, jumped from a balloon at a height of 3,200 feet. Following the invention of the airplane, the parachute became a lifesaver for pilots. Airborne is a means of rapidly delivering soldiers and equipment into the battlefield from aircraft using parachutes. Airborne operations are especially suited for infiltrating behind enemy lines and attacking denied targets by surprise. All 4 U.S. military branches, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, have airborne units. The first military parachutist drop took place in the early 1930s in Russia. In 1936, Russia conducted an operation involving over 1,000 parachutists. Germany was the first to successfully drop paratroopers into combat during the early stages of World War II. Other armies, including the U.S., Britain, France, Japan, and Italy, took note. Japan successfully deployed paratroopers as early as 1942. The first U.S. airborne unit was called the United States Army Airborne Test Platoon, and later the U.S. Parachute Troops. The largest airborne combat jump in history took place on D-Day, the 6th of June 1944, when 20,000 troops of the U.S. 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, as well as the British 6th Airborne Division, were dropped into Normandy, France. The C-47 aircraft being used for today's water jump took part in that operation. Other drops were made into France, Holland, New Guinea, Germany, and the Philippines all the way until 1945. After World War II, U.S. paratroopers made jumps into Korea, South Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Grenada, Panama, Iraq, and Afghanistan, with the last recorded U.S. combat jump taking place on March 23, 2003. There are 2 military parachuting methods, static line and military freefall, commonly called skydiving. Static line parachuting is a simpler technique than military freefall and requires less training because the static line automatically deploys the jumper's parachute. A static line is a length of thick and very strong nylon cord with a steel snap hook at one end. The snap hook is secured to a steel cable inside the aircraft. The other end is secured to the main parachute pack with cotton brake cord. The excess static line is stowed on elastic bands on the main parachute backpack. The parachute is folded into a deployment bag. The parachute suspension lines are secured by locking stows on the deployment bag. As shown in this slow-motion video, as the jumper falls away from the aircraft, the static line unstows off the backpack, opens the parachute pack, and pulls out the deployment bag. The suspension lines then unstow off the deployment bag and release the parachute canopy, which then separates free from the deployment bag and inflates. After all jumpers have exited, personnel or winches inside the aircraft pull the static line and deployment bags back inside the aircraft. Static line jumps are ideally suited for delivering large numbers of paratroopers into the battlefield at low altitude. Jumping at low altitude reduces exposure of the aircraft and the paratroopers to enemy anti-aircraft and ground fire. Static line parachuting requires less training than military freefall parachuting. The paratrooper merely assumes a tight body position after exiting the aircraft, and the static line deploys the parachute. Freefall parachuting requires advanced training because the jumper must learn how to fall in a stable, face-to-earth position so his rear-mounted main, and if needed a reserve parachute, deploys without entangling or malfunctioning. Static line parachutes are most often round designs with typical diameters of 32 to 35 feet. Static line parachutes can either be non-steerable or steerable. Non-steerable parachutes have no forward motion, which reduces the likelihood of a canopy entanglement with other jumpers during descent. This makes them better suited for mass tactical parachute jumps, in which large numbers of jumpers exit the airplane as quickly as possible so the jumpers land in close proximity to one another. Steerable static line parachutes have cutouts in the rear, which gives the canopy forward drive of up to 8 knots or 9 miles per hour. There are also turn slots on either side that can be opened or closed to enable the canopy to be turned to the left or right by manipulating steering lines ending in toggles within reach of the jumper. The jumper can also reduce the speed of the parachute by pulling down both toggles simultaneously. This control allows the jumper to steer away from other jumpers during descent and avoid obstacles on the ground. This also gives jumpers the ability to land together in smaller drop zones, making them better suited for special operations teams. A significant advantage of steerable parachutes is their ability to jump in higher winds, because by facing into the wind, the forward speed of the parachute counteracts the wind speed, resulting in softer landings. Military freefall is best suited to enable special operations teams to silently infiltrate enemy territory and conduct clandestine missions. The original military freefall technique was called HALO, an abbreviation of High Altitude, Low Opening. The jump aircraft flew over the target at an altitude too high to be heard by the enemy on the ground. The jumpers, equipped with oxygen and cold weather clothing, exited the aircraft together, fell together, opened their parachutes together at a much lower altitude, then landed together close to or onto their objective. The advent of sophisticated radar and high-altitude anti-aircraft missiles made this technique obsolete. A new military freefall technique called HAHO, which stands for High Altitude, High Opening, is possible due to the advent of modern ram air or square parachutes. The parachutes are similar in shape to an aircraft wing, are fast and highly maneuverable, and can glide over great distances. This enables the jump aircraft to fly at altitudes in excess of 40,000 feet at great distances from the enemy target. The jumpers open their parachutes within seconds after exiting, fly silently together, and land on or near the objective together using GPS or other directional aids. It's even possible for the jumpers to jump while still in friendly country and glide silently across the border into an adjacent enemy country and attack a target without the aircraft having to enter enemy airspace. The jumpers then glide across the border to the objective. The aircraft could even be disguised as a routine commercial airliner. What happens to all the wet parachutes? The parachutes are hung out to dry at a facility in Leesburg, Florida, owned by Brian Eldridge, our senior jump master. He closes his business down for a few days to support this operation. They are then transported to a parachute rigging facility at Zephyr Hills, Florida, for additional drying and untangling if needed, then repacked. All these activities cost money. If you are interested in supporting our organization, please consider making a tax-deductible donation on our website, www.phantomairborne.org. The Phantom Airborne Brigade staff and members would like to thank the City of Tavares, the Lake County Sheriff and Fire and Rescue personnel, the Kahlua Beach Bar, the Boat Recovery Volunteers, all other volunteers, and especially the wonderful spectators for supporting this event. Airborne!